Hey everybody, I want to talk to you today about the next 90 days in your government contracting business. Now, this video is primarily for folks that are frustrated in what's going on in their business right now. So you're trying to get some traction and you're struggling with that. And so I want to talk primarily to you today, but I think anybody, regardless of where you are, is going to get some value out of this video. So the next 90 days, I really want you to focus on some small milestones. The challenge that I run across with a lot of business owners that I coach is they typically overestimate what they can accomplish in a 90-day period and underestimate what they'll accomplish in, say, a year, 2, 3 years, something like that. So for some reason in our minds, we can set a goal like, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds. And for some reason, we can think, well, I want to do that in 90 days. But if I were to sit down and say over the course of the next year, how much weight would it take you to lose to actually be happy? You could say, well, maybe 25 or 30 pounds. So that's kind of what happens. We overestimate the shorter window for some reason, because that's just what we want to try to accomplish. So when it comes to our government contracting business, we do a lot of the same things. Hey, I want to be a $5 million contract in 3 years. That means I want to build up to $1 million by the end of this year. And right now you're sitting at 100,000 in revenue, or whatever it is. Let's say you're a $5 million company. And you're like, hey, we want to be 25 million in 5 years. And we're only at 5 right now. How are we going to get there? Like, well, by the end of the year, I want to be at 10 or 12 or whatever. We set those goals really out of whack most of the time. So what I actually want to focus on instead of those goals is the next 90 days, putting the key actions and systems in place to actually facilitate those goals. So kind of take your mind off the goals for a minute, because once you can actually put the actions in place, you can usually accelerate the growth on the back end. So the next 90 days is critical to look at, hey, do we have our target market squared away? Are we focused on that? Do we know who our buyers are? Those are a couple of things really important. Are we focused on the niche product service that we focus on? Do we know that stuff? Do we have a system in place for responding to RFIs and sources sought, RFPs, quotes, bids, all those kind of things? Do we have a system in place for that? Are we clear on the value we provide? Is our corporate overview clean? Does it have metrics? All these kind of things. Do we have all that? Because here's the challenge. If you are focused on trying to win, but you don't have the pieces in place, it's going to make it an uphill battle every time you do what you need to do. So every time you call a contracting officer, every time you respond to an RFP, every time you try to execute an action, if it's not working properly, there's a good chance you don't have those foundational pieces in place. So for the next 90 days, what I want you to do is look at, hey, what are those foundational pieces that we don't have in place that if we did, it would make our life easier. So just focus that on the next 90 days. Make a checklist of those kind of things. That way you will build a really, really strong foundation. It'll make it much easier to accomplish whatever goals you have for the rest of the year. Have a shot at that. If you have questions, as always, reach out. Love to help you. See you next time.